Senator Smart Adeyemi, three-time Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who represented Kogi West at the Red Chamber, joins me now live from our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us on the program this evening. We'll talk more about Kogi politics shortly, but let me get your thoughts first on the latest happenings in the 10th Senate. I'm sure that must have piqued some of your curiosity. If I'm right, Senator Abo has called out the Senate president, distinguished, saying the judgment is a witch hunt for him, not supporting Senator Godswill Akpabio. You're familiar with the terrain. You were with Senator Abo in the 9th Senate. What do you make of this latest claim?
Well, usually once you are out of the chamber, you hardly want to get involved with the internal politics and wranglings. But let me just say this here, that I'm not in position to condemn anyone in the chamber now. It would be against the norms and the values that we place on ourselves in the National Assembly. But having said so, let me just say that I do not see the possibility of the Senate President working against any senator for whatever position he or she decides to take on the floor of the Senate. I think that these are some of the teething problems when you have a new assembly in place. You know, it takes time before you can get to understand each other, and you can have stability. But more importantly, too, these are some of the problems when you have a large army of newcomers coming into the chamber. But for the Senate President, I do not think he's a man who we want to winch hunt anybody. I'm talking about His Excellency Senator Akpabio. I knew him more than a decade ago. I do not see him as somebody with that kind of heart or spirit to winch hunt anybody. But again, like I said, my brother Abo could have reason for what he has said, but I think he should just take the judgment of the court the way it is, and not to rock the boat, and let us have stability of the Red Chamber. I do not think the Senate President can go to that extent to winch hunt people, colleagues of his, to be push out or from the chamber through the court. And I do not want to believe that our legal system is that corrupt to that level to get somebody who has been elected by his people to be so removed. But being that as it may, I think it's a very serious allegation he has made, and I personally feel very disturbed. What I think more importantly is that the judiciary must equally weigh this allegation in view of certain other issues. It may not have been an issue that has to do with the Senate President. I mean, it may not have anything to do with the Senate President. I'm talking about the judgment against Senator Elisha Abo. It may not have had anything to do with the Senate President. But again, it's unfortunate that you cannot take this case further. So I would just appeal to him that for the peace and stability of the system, he should just move out. Like I was forced out too from the chamber. I was forced out because of my position on contemporary national issues. You know, but I don't think my own case is similar with his own, because I have nobody in the Senate to accuse to have pushed me out. So I would just tell my brother to just take it in good faith, and believe in God that tomorrow is still there for him. He's still a young man, so he still have a long way to go.
I agree with you, Senator Adeyemi, that he's made some really weighty allegations here, because it's suggesting that the Senate President had the capacity to manipulate the Court of Appeal, which you just got back from. So I know that it should also disturb you a lot if there is possibility to decide, you know, what the judges say. But there's still so much talk about how the Senate President emerged in June amidst conversations on whether or not there are plans to impeach him. Do you think your party has successfully moved on from that election in the Senate?
Well, I think that the Senate is gradually getting stabilized. Don't forget that in this dispensation, you had a situation where quite a number of people were elected from different parties. It's not like I was in the 6th, 7th, and the 9th Senate. Now, all these 3 terms that I spent in the Senate, we had majority coming from the ruling party, so to speak. So with that, you can, we had a bit of stability. Okay, so unlike what we have now, you have quite a number of people elected senators from different political parties. So for the first 6 months, there might be a problem of getting to understand each other. So it's nothing to worry about, and I'm not in doubt that Senator Akpabio, His Excellency, the Senate President, is a man with a great wealth of experience. So he should be able to stabilize this in the next few weeks. It's normal when you have new senators and when you have a very hot contest or process of electing the Senate President. There could still be some people who may have reservations, who may still not be comfortable, but notwithstanding, as time goes on, they will get to understand each other, and I'm sure they will get what happened behind them, and they will move forward.
I like your optimism, and I'm hoping that it actually mirrors what the reality is in the days to come. Let's talk about your constituency. We just have about 10 or 12 more minutes, so I want to ask you as many questions as possible, if you will. Your appeal at the Supreme Court is due for judgment in 6 days, I suppose, but your opponents are saying you seeking that fresh primaries be conducted is merely academic. The fact that the time within which such election could hold, as stipulated by the Electoral Act, had expired. You're not expecting the Apex Court to grant your prayers, are you?
I think the problem of quite a number of people, especially those who are in politics, is that they do not care to read laws that are amended. There's no law that is stagnant. I was a member of the Senate Committee on the review of the Constitution, and there's no provision that any political party could go to the contest without a candidate. We have expunged that clause, and that's what many people don't know. In the new Electoral Act, the Electoral Act empowered the court to direct INEC to ask for political parties to substitute at any time that there is a problem or there was an invalid election. The new Electoral Act empowers the party to present another candidate. It is the old law people are talking about, and they make reference to what happened in Zamfara. Because of that, while we're in the Senate, we expunged that clause. So that clause no longer existing. But like I do say that His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo just said, when you don't want Nigeria to know something, put it in the book, because they're not going to read. So I see some people celebrating ignorance. The law has been amended. In this Electoral Act, the court is empowered to allow a political party that had problems in the process of conducting the primary election to present another candidate through direct, indirect, or through consensus. If the time is not there, the party can come up with the last option, which is the consensus candidate. In essence, a political party could write INEC and hold a stakeholder meeting and come to a conclusion that this candidate is good enough for us. So it is not a question of not having party, because the ballot papers will not carry pictures of anybody. It's going to carry the name of the political parties. So it is an outdated law, and people are just speaking out of ignorance. But the law has been amended, and I'm not ignorant of the law. Yes. For me to go to the Supreme Court, it means that the audacity of going to the Supreme Court is because I was a party to the drafting of this law. I was a member of the committee. And I was very active in the Senate. So there's no law that is passed that
it was also widely reported, Adeyemi, if you can hear me, that the Supreme Court on the 28th of September had advised your lawyer to withdraw this appeal. According to that report, the Apex Court had stated that you'd failed to challenge the concurrent findings of both the Federal High Court and Court of Appeal that primary elections were held in Kogi State. Is that accurate?
It's not true. In fact, the panel did say that they have not read our brief. They told us they have not read the brief. Asked if your correspondent was there. They said they have not read our brief. Look, let me tell you, what are the issues? Number one was that This law says conduct primary election word by word. It was not word by word. And don't forget, there are established doctrine of law, what we call local classicals of law. That is, there are laws that have been established over the years, over the centuries. You cannot put something on nothing and it will stand. The result before their lordship is just 11 words out of 239 words. So will you say that the result of the word is not important when you have the result of just the local government areas? They had 21 local government areas results, but the word, there was no word result. In essence, there was no election. You cannot put something on nothing and it will stand in law. You can't. In fact, a judge, a Supreme Court judge, one of our judgments she said that electoral process is like a pyramid and that it has a foundation. Once the foundation is lacking, then it's not standing. So in essence,
the Kogi election,
yes.
Senator Adeyemi, is now coming up in less than a month, and there's usually a political arrangement to reconcile aggrieved parties after, primaries of this sort. I'm wondering if anyone reached out to you, or you are the one not letting this go. But I just want to bring to attention that some are saying it's a lonely journey here because the former Commissioner for Information, who is considered your ally, one Dr. Tom Ohikere, has now pledged to ensure the victory of the APC standard bearer. He was even quoted to have said that he is going to work on bringing you back into the fold. Would you say that you are alone on this road and that perhaps quite a number of people wouldn't want you to do what you are doing as we speak?
You see, what defines a true leader is for you to champion what many people see as impossible, and for you to confront what people think is insurmountable within the law. You see, when you are conversant with the law and you are not ignorant of the law, you are like a lion because you believe that this is what the law says. What the essence of the National Assembly is to make laws. The National Assembly is the symbol of democracy. If the law passed, the act passed by the two parliaments, will not be honored, be respected, then what's the essence of National Assembly? I'm not an ignorant person of the law. We drafted the law, and I know what the law says, word by word, casting of vote. In their own submission, they said there was no casting of vote, that they adopted option A4. In their own submission, they said they didn't do word by word. They said they did local government by local government. You can't change the law. I was in my ward waiting for, see, all those guys who you see talking, they have to do that because they needed to please the master. You have not seen me condemning the APC as a party. That's my party. We built APC together, perhaps more than those errand boys, those happy slaves that you see. I cannot live in the APC, but I'm going to fight for my rights. I'm going to fight for the right of my people because my people are not slaves. You know why I bought Kogi State? For 32 years, Kogi West has not produced a governor. We are not a conquered people. We are not slaves. We are highly educated people, and I'm proud of my past. I'm proud of my tribe. So nobody can make me or make my people a second class. If I've been elected 3 times as a senator, I have a responsibility to defend the interests of my people. I was the DG campaign of Yahaya Bello for a second term. If I was not good enough with the governor appointment, his DG campaign that made it to win the second term, when the third senatorial district voted emas for PDP, it is Kogi West and Kogi Central that voted for Yahaya Bello to emerge as a second term. So
talking about Yahaya Bello, let me just butt in for a minute. Talking about Yahaya Bello, because there's one thing the law says, there's also the other thing they said you said. And I'm glad you're here to clarify that. There's an old video of you passionately expressing your unalloyed loyalty to Yahaya Bello. And you mentioned about a succession, that whenever he's ready to pick a successor, whoever the person is, even if he's your worst political enemy, that you're going to support him. Has that changed now?
Let me say this. The video was edited. I said so, but did you listen to the conclusion? I said within the law. I said anybody is supporting, it must be within the law, and not at the expense of those who have elected me. Not at the expense of my own people, my own people of Kogi West. Okay? A leader will not compromise the future of his people. I'm not going to do that. If I love you, if I'm supporting you, it's because you were doing the right thing at that moment, at that period. If you deviate to the detriment of my people and you expect me to keep quiet, no, it's not going to work out. My loyalty to the party, to Yahaya Bello, it still stands as I speak to you. Have I criticized government? Have I exposed any wrongdoing of that government? You can have not done that. You won't know I'm a journalist. I've not said anything bad about the government. I'm talking about the process, which is faulty. There was no valid election. For anybody to be elected as a flag bearer, you must pass through a valid election. Can you justify 11-word results before the judges, before the juries? So 228 words had no results. 228 words had no results. And you expect us to keep quiet? Look, I came to the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court is not just a court of law, but a court of justice, fairness, equity, and of superior reasoning. Supreme Court, when they make pronouncement, it becomes a case law. If the Supreme Court should rule against me on this matter, it means they have said that 11 words is good enough to declare somebody a winner. God forbid, because it will go against established doctrine of law of fairness.
We're going to allow the Apex Court to determine what it wishes on this matter because we are not judges in this case, right? But if I can, ask you one more question before we move on, is that if you don't get it, who do you think is qualified to succeed Governor Yahaya Bello as governor of Kogi State?
Before I answer your question, you said something. Now let me answer you. You see, in law, there's what they call nemo judice in cause cusa. That is, you can't be a judge over your case. That explains why I'm in Supreme Court. I came here because I'm invited, and I wanted to explain to you why I went. The audacity of going to the Supreme Court is because the audacity of knowledge of the law. I'm not a judge, but I was a lawmaker, and I know the spirit and content of what we wrote. Okay, so I'm not a judge. But having said that, I told you that the Supreme Court, when they pass judgment, it becomes a law. It becomes a precedent. It becomes a case law for other courts to follow. If other courts should goof, Supreme Court must not goof, God forbid. Having said that, to your question as to who among them is good enough, when we get to the bridge, we think of the engineering work of how to cross it.
And I'm guessing the bridge, you'll get to the end of the bridge after the Supreme Court proclamation. We have just one more minute. I'd like to get your opinion on how well you think your party's your party's candidate in the presidential election, who is now Mr. President, is faring, particularly with his policies far beyond 100 days of his inauguration.
I think we must commend the courage of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his effort to reform the economy, to reform the socio-economic activities of our nation. Having said it, let me say that this is a government that inherited a lot of misplaced priorities and, to some extent, some inexplicable mismanagement of public funds. I pity the president because he's carrying a burden that perhaps he never even thought about. A lot of things were not done properly, and you can see a lot of revelation. So for a man to still have the courage and is pushing ahead, the last trip the president made was highly commendable, attracting foreign investment to Nigeria. I've never had in the last 10 years, if any president was able to attract at a single trip about $14–15 billion investment. So I think the country is on the right track under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Like I said, he personified those who struggle for the enthronement of democracy and is determined to effect a change. He came to make a name by making Nigeria great again. And I'm not in doubt. Yes, he clearly appreciated the fact that Nigerians are passing through pains. All of us are passing through it. But the fact remains, he's visionary. He knows what he wants. He knows what is good for the country. And he's pursuing them. If you have a very sick patient, you will not look at his face at time to give him the appropriate injection, or else he will still die. So what the man is trying to do is to reposition Nigeria economically, socially, and to make sure that Nigeria economy bounces back again. And
that's our time, Senator Adeyemi. I am so impressed, by the fact that you still speak as passionately as you do on the floor of the Senate, And I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you. Perhaps you will join us subsequently to also review other matters of national importance. But we have to go now. Three-time Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who represented Kogi West at the Red Chamber, Senator Smart Adeyemi. Thank you so much for talking to us on the program this evening.
So much. Thank you for your time.
Today, we're back tomorrow with another exciting one at 6 p.m. But you can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I'm Nifemi Oguntoye. See you again at the top of the hour.